Christmas Eve is supposed to be quiet in a comforting way. Not the kind of quiet where your ears start ringing because the world feels wrong. That was the first thing I noticed. The snow had stopped falling sometime after midnight, leaving the road outside my parents' house buried in white silence. No wind. No cars. No dogs barking in the distance. Just stillness. Thick, heavy, pressing against the windows like something listening. I was awake because of the sound. A single knock. Not loud. Not urgent. Measured. 3 slow taps. Then nothing. I remember lying there, staring at the ceiling, telling myself it was just ice cracking, or a branch brushing the door. Old houses make noises, especially in winter. Then it happened again. 3 taps. Closer this time. From the front door. I held my breath, waiting for my phone to buzz with a message from my dad downstairs. "Did you hear that?" But nothing came. No footsteps. No voices. The house stayed frozen, like it was holding its breath too. That's when I heard it. A whisper. Not inside my head. Not coming from outside. But drifting up through the floorboards beneath my bed. "He said you'd come." My blood turned cold. I sat up slowly, heart hammering, knowing, without knowing how, that whatever was standing at our front door had not come by accident. And that Christmas Eve would never let me forget it. I hadn't planned on staying the night. That was the lie I told myself while unloading my bags from the car, breath fogging in the frozen air. Christmas Eve had always been a short visit for me. Dinner, gifts, polite laughter, then a drive back to town before midnight. But this year, the road behind me had already disappeared under snow, swallowed whole by the woods. The house stood exactly as I remembered it. Too exactly. The porch light cast a pale yellow circle over the steps, revealing old scratches in the wood I didn't remember being there. The doorframe looked darker, like it had absorbed years of cold. Somewhere deep in the trees, something cracked. Too heavy to be a branch. The quiet pressed in. Not peaceful. Watchful. My mother opened the door before I knocked. She smiled, but her eyes stayed wide, scanning past me into the darkness. "You're late," she said. "I'm on time," I replied, forcing a grin. She didn't correct me. Inside, the house smelled like pine, dust, and something faintly metallic. The Christmas tree glowed softly in the corner, ornaments hanging perfectly still. No music played. No TV murmured. Just the ticking of the clock over the fireplace. Slow, deliberate, counting something down. My father stood near the kitchen doorway. He hugged me once, stiff and quick. "You should have called," he said. I did. He nodded anyway, like he hadn't heard me. Dinner passed in fragments. Forks scraping plates too loudly. Glasses clinking in the silence. Every few minutes, one of them glanced toward the front door. I noticed the deadbolt had been slid into place. Then the chain. Then a chair angled beneath the handle. Expecting company? I joked. My mother's hand trembled as she lifted her glass. "No," she said too fast. After dinner, I wandered upstairs, needing space. The steps creaked under my weight, each one groaning like it resented being disturbed. My old bedroom waited at the end of the hall. Door slightly open. Nothing inside had changed. Same pale walls. Same narrow bed. Same window facing the woods. That's when I noticed the snow outside. Footprints cut cleanly through it, starting at the tree line, ending at the front porch. No wandering. No hesitation. Just a straight, purposeful path. They weren't human. Not quite. The spacing was wrong. Too even. Too careful. I stared until my reflection stared back, pale and unsettled. Goosebumps rose along my arms. I hadn't heard anyone approach. No crunch of snow. No doorbell. Nothing. Downstairs, the clock struck 11. I went back down, the image of those footprints burning behind my eyes. Did someone stop by earlier? I asked, trying to sound casual. My parents froze. My father swallowed. No. Then whose footprints are outside? The heater kicked on suddenly, roaring to life. The lights flickered once. Twice. My mother sat down hard in her chair. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. The words landed heavy, like a door slamming shut somewhere far away. I laughed, too loud. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" Neither of them smiled. My father rubbed his hands together, staring at the floor. We thought maybe this year it wouldn't." He stopped himself. "Wouldn't what?" A sound echoed through the house then, a soft knock. 3 taps. Measured. Controlled. My mother stood so fast her chair tipped over. "Don't answer it." Another knock. 3 taps. Closer. My heart pounded. "Dad!" He moved anyway, slow and stiff, like he was walking toward something he'd already accepted. My mother clutched his arm. "Please," she said. The knocking stopped. Silence stretched thin. Dad opened the door. Cold air rushed in, sharp and biting. Snow drifted across the porch in lazy spirals. Nothing stood there. No person. No animal. Just darkness. Dad exhaled shakily. "See? Nothing." Then the door behind him creaked. Not from wind. From pressure. Something moved inside the house. I felt it before I saw it. A shift in the air like the room had inhaled. Dad turned slowly. Confusion twisting into terror. The lights went out. I ran. Up the stairs. Down the hall. Into my room. I slammed the door and locked it. Hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped the key. Below me, footsteps dragged across the floor. Slow. Deliberate. Not hiding. A voice rose from beneath the floorboards, thin and wet and wrong, like it had practiced sounding human. "He said you'd come back." I pressed my back against the door, heart hammering, every instinct screaming that this wasn't a break-in. This wasn't a prank. This was something older. Something tied to this house. To this night. To me. And whatever had followed those footprints through the snow wasn't here to visit. It was here to finish something started long ago, every Christmas Eve without fail. I didn't sleep. Not really. I sat on the edge of my bed until the black outside my window thinned into gray, listening to the house breathe. Every sound felt deliberate now. The slow ticking of the clock downstairs. Pipes knocking like distant footsteps. Wind scraping against the siding as if something outside was testing the walls. No more whispers came after that first one. That scared me more than anything. When morning finally arrived, it didn't bring relief. Snow covered everything in a smooth, untouched sheet, as if the footprints I'd seen the night before had never existed. My parents were already awake. My mother stood at the sink, hands submerged in water that wasn't running. My father sat at the table, staring at a single coffee cup like it held answers. Neither of them mentioned the night. I did. "What was that?" I asked. The room tightened. Dad spoke without looking at me. "We told ourselves if we didn't say its name, it couldn't follow you." My stomach sank. "Say what name?" Mom finally turned. Her eyes were red, rimmed with something close to shame. "It's not something you name," she said. "It's something you survive." I waited for laughter, for the reveal of some elaborate joke. None came. They told me pieces first, never the whole thing. Christmas Eve, 26 years ago, before I was born, before this house belonged to us. A man had lived here alone, quiet, polite, deeply religious in a way that made people uncomfortable. Every Christmas Eve, he invited someone in, a neighbor, a traveler, once even a priest. No one ever saw those guests leave. By morning, the house would be empty again. Eventually, the man vanished too. The town buried the story. The house was sold cheap, renovated, sanitized. My parents bought it young, desperate, unaware. "Why didn't you leave?" I asked. Dad finally met my eyes. "Because it didn't start right away." The first Christmas Eve passed quietly. Then the second. The third brought a knock. 3 taps. Measured. They opened the door. Nothing stood there. But something came in anyway. Mom's voice broke. "It doesn't hurt you. Not right away." It just reminds you. Of what? I whispered. Of promises, she said. That afternoon, I went into town. I needed air, distance, proof the world was still normal. The streets were empty, most shops closed early for the holiday. At the gas station, an old man behind the counter stiffened when I gave my address. That house, he said slowly. You're staying there? For Christmas, I replied. He hesitated, then leaned closer. If it knocks, don't open the door. My pulse quickened. You know about it. He shook his head. Everyone does. Nobody talks. I drove past the old church on the edge of town. Its doors were chained shut, snow piled against the steps. Someone had scratched words into the frost on one of the windows. Still waiting. That night, the house felt smaller, claustrophobic. Every shadow leaned the wrong way. Corners stretched too long. The hallway outside my room seemed to deepen every time I looked at it. At 11:47 p.m., the heater shut off. Silence crashed down. Then, 3 taps. This time, they came from inside the walls. I froze, breath shallow, as something moved behind the drywall. Slow dragging sounds, like fingers searching for seams. A whisper followed, closer than before. You remember me? No, I whispered back, tears stinging my eyes. I don't. The whisper laughed. Not loud. Satisfied. Downstairs, a door opened. I crept to the stairwell and looked down. My parents stood at the front door again. Only this time it was already open. Cold air poured in. Snow drifted across the floor. And standing just beyond the threshold was nothing I could fully see. The shape bent wrong. Tall but compressed. Its outline flickered like it couldn't decide how to exist. Where its face should have been, the darkness folded inward. Dad spoke, voice shaking. You said if we stayed quiet. If we didn't invite. The thing tilted its head. You invited me the first time. Mom sobbed. We didn't know. You always know, it whispered. Eventually. The house groaned. Lights shattered. Time slipped. I don't know how long we stood there, seconds or hours, but suddenly the thing turned its attention upward, toward me. You came back, it said softly. That was kind. I ran. Locked myself in my room. And that's when I found the box under my bed. Old. Dust-covered. Tied with twine. Inside were photographs. Christmas Eves. Different years. Different people. All standing in this house. All smiling. All with the same dark blur standing just behind them. Waiting. The house no longer felt like mine. Not even my parents anymore. It belonged to something else. Something patient. Something that had waited decades, watching the threads of bloodlines, waiting for the one who would finally notice. I could hear it in the walls, beneath the floorboards, in the air that smelled faintly of iron and ash. 3 taps. Again. Not on the door this time. Not even a knock. Directly into my skull. Into the part of my mind that was still human. I stumbled through the hallway, adrenaline igniting my muscles, my breath short, my vision blurred. Shadows were stretching too long, the walls narrowing, the ceiling dipping closer. Every familiar corner had betrayed me. The Christmas tree in the living room, which had comforted me moments ago, now leered in crooked angles. Its ornaments rattled in invisible hands. You shouldn't have come back, my father choked, voice hoarse. I barely heard him. Something pressed against the edge of perception, just out of sight. I could feel it moving faster than I could track, smelling the air I breathed. The lights flickered violently, each flash revealing a shape too wrong to exist. Limbs elongated, torsos twisted, faces that bent inside themselves. He always notices. It whispered. The voice came from everywhere. From the ceiling, the floor, the walls. From inside me. I ran to the stairs. Every step groaned as if protesting. Time was no longer linear. I saw my childhood bedroom flash past me, then the hallway, then the kitchen, then the night from 26 years ago. The man. The other guests. Their terrified faces. All consumed. I pressed against the wall, nauseated. The house seemed to pulse, breathing, living, hungry. You can't hide. I stumbled into my parents' room. They weren't there. Just the bed. Empty. Sheets rustling as though someone had left in a rush, though the snow outside remained untouched. I screamed. My voice bounced off the walls and returned twisted, layered, mocking. I've waited, it said, low, patient, inevitable. The front door slammed open. The cold inside wasn't air. It was intent. It wrapped around me, thick and wet, weighing my lungs down. I could see the outline of it now fully. A shadow, tall, shifting, faceless. Limbs bending in ways no human should. A darkness that absorbed the glow from the lamps, the reflection from the ornaments, the warmth from my body. Come with me, it breathed. I stumbled backward. He said you'd come. The words reverberated inside my skull, and suddenly I remembered. Every photograph. Every Christmas Eve it had visited. Every family that had failed. Every soul that had thought it could outrun the ritual. It didn't matter. I didn't matter. I tried the front door. Locked. Then the back. Locked. Windows. Frozen solid. No escape. My mind screamed, scrambled, fractured. The entity moved closer, though it seemed to glide, to ripple, to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Remember the box, it whispered. The box. The photographs. Under my bed. I dove for it, fumbling, spilling pictures across the floor. Each flash of its outline made the pictures shimmer, the faces within twisting as though aware. You invited yourself, it hissed. I tried to throw the box at it. My hands passed through the shadow. The photograph scattered, spinning unnaturally, floating midair before sliding across the floor toward me. Faces stared up at me. Smiles too wide. Eyes too black. You see now, don't you? Yes. I saw. Every mistake. Every act of curiosity. Every disbelief. Every laugh. Every thought that this was just a story. I screamed. My voice broke. My knees buckled. The entity loomed closer, filling the room, folding space in on itself. You belong here. All of you. And then the walls shifted. The ceiling sank. The floor warped. Every surface became liquid, reflecting distorted versions of my own terrified face. Doors opened into rooms that shouldn't exist. My bedroom appeared in the living room. The hallway looped back on itself. I was trapped in a labyrinth built from memory and fear. Leave, and it follows. Stay, and it takes. My parents' voices echoed, but not from where they should have been. My father shouting from the ceiling. My mother whispering from inside the closet. I grabbed a chair, swung it at the shadow. It rippled like water. I hit nothing. You can't fight me, it said. I stumbled backward into the kitchen, and then it was everywhere. Around me, behind me, inside me. The shadows of the room stretched and bent, eating the light. My heartbeat thundered, my vision blurred, my thoughts splintered. I've waited, it whispered again. And now you are here. I tried to scream, but no sound came. My body betrayed me. Limbs stiffened. My mind shattered in 1,000 tiny cuts of terror. I saw my own reflection in the refrigerator door. The eyes staring back were not my own. Hollow, dark, endless. I stumbled away, dizzy, nauseated. You invited yourself. Now the night belongs to me. Time fractured. Minutes stretched to hours. The house shifted in impossible ways. I fell down a hallway that had never existed, landing in a room I didn't recognize. The Christmas tree glowed here too, but it wasn't warm. Its lights flickered like dying embers. Or eyes. I saw movement in the corners of my vision. The entity or its spawn, maybe both, circling, waiting, patient. Scream, it said softly, in a voice that sounded like my own. I screamed. Not because of sound. Not because of pain. But because the truth had landed fully inside me. I was trapped. Not by walls. Not by doors. but by inevitability. And then the shadows began to twist together, forming faces. Faces I recognized from the photographs. Faces smiling at me, blank yet full of hunger. Waiting. "It's your turn," it whispered. My knees gave out. I fell. My hands clawed at the floor, but the wood bent, warped, liquefied under me. My mind screamed. My body shook. "You cannot leave. You cannot survive." The lights exploded in one blinding flash. The room dissolved. I was floating in darkness. The whispers, the taps, the laughter. All inside me now. The box of photographs drifted toward the center of the void. Faces stared up, black mouths moving, showing me every Christmas Eve that had come before. "Welcome home," it said. And then everything went still. When I awoke, it was morning. The snow outside was untouched, silent, and blindingly white. The house looked normal. Christmas lights twinkled cheerfully on the tree, ornaments swinging lightly as though nothing had happened. My parents were gone. The kitchen was empty. No dishes in the sink. No crumbs. No voices. I stumbled through the rooms, heart hammering, eyes scanning every shadow. But there were none. Or maybe I just couldn't see them. I found the box of photographs where I had dropped it. Dusty, unchanged, except one picture had appeared that hadn't been there before. Me, standing in the living room, smiling. Behind me, a shadow blurred the edges of the frame. I dropped it. The photo landed face down. I didn't dare look again. I went outside. The neighborhood was quiet. Perfectly quiet. Too quiet. The snow stretched endlessly, and for a moment I thought I saw footprints trailing from my house into the woods, but when I blinked, they were gone. I ran to the car, engine sputtering, tires spinning on the icy drive. But even as I left the property, I could feel it, watching, waiting. A weight pressing down in my chest. A whisper curling around my mind. Next year. I drove to the edge of town, thinking I was safe. But every street looked identical. Every house familiar yet wrong. Time had warped. Even the sun felt muted, unable to burn through the haze of dread clinging to the air. I called my friends. Nobody answered. I called my apartment. The line was dead. My phone buzzed once, displaying a single text. "You forgot to lock the door." I slammed the phone shut. Days passed, or maybe hours. I couldn't tell. The world felt detached, like a stage set I was trapped inside. People moved around me, but their faces were blurred. Conversations drifted past like wind. I felt invisible, untethered. I tried to sleep, but the night came too quickly, faster than it should have. Shadows lengthened unnaturally across my ceiling. The house was still somewhere in my mind, even though I had left it behind. Then the sound returned. 3 taps. Measured. Patient. Not on a door. Not outside. In my skull. The first note of Christmas Eve, repeating endlessly. I realized the truth. The encounter hadn't ended. It could never end. The house, the entity, the photographs, they didn't belong to the world anymore. They belonged to memory, to blood, to fear itself. And now so did I. I could try to tell someone, but words wouldn't carry it. My friends, my family, authorities, they wouldn't understand. Even if they did, they wouldn't survive. So I stayed silent. I went through the motions. Work. Meals. Conversation. But behind my eyes, in the corners of my mind, the shadows waited. They whispered my name. They reminded me of the taps. The photographs. The promise I had made, knowingly or not, by returning to that house. I tried to leave town. Roads twisted back. Signs changed. Snow covered everything. I couldn't escape. Christmas came again. And again. Every year. The calendar flipped, but the day felt infinite. Every night, the taps returned. Every morning, the box sat under my bed, waiting. I am changed. Hollow. Hollow enough that strangers can look at me and see nothing unusual. Hollow enough that I can function. Hollow enough to survive. For now. But deep down in the quiet I know, the entity doesn't just live in that house. It lives wherever its story is remembered. And now, I carry it with me. Some nights when the world is still, I hear it whisper, "Next year, I'll be waiting." The snow falls quietly outside. A single footprint appears on the porch. 3 taps echo somewhere. Perhaps in the walls, perhaps in the very air around me. And I know, as I have always known since that first knock, Christmas Eve is no longer a celebration. It is a warning. And I will never forget.